Okay, it says we're live. Takes time.
Oh.
Great.
Are we? Are we? Are we?
Yeah, we're live. We're live. We're live.
Oh.
We are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Let me
Yes,
mute
we are.
myself on Facebook.
Let's wait for a few people to come in and then we'll start.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me properly?
I can. Can
Great.
you?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
That's great.
What have you been up to this lockdown?
Good question, man. The usual. I think my life hasn't changed a lot before and after the lockdown. Like since the lockdown. It's more or less the same. I've been at home. I love being at home. I'm going to continue being at home. What about you?
I don't like being at home that much. I like going out. It's been fine. I think it's just getting used to the lockdown, I think. Now I
Right.
think everybody's pretty used to it.
Yeah.
Being at home, I don't think there's anything like, is there anything anybody's doing that's interesting enough? I mean, I'm doing this. This is interesting for me. This has been very interesting. It has been great, very interesting. But anyway, people are coming in. So everybody, welcome to Cut the Crap with Saberi. I think this is normal protocol now. So that's that. I have the wonderful Abhishek Borkar with me today.
Namaste.
Namaste. Yeah,
Indian classical music
but
show.
yeah, so this is another guy who I've had these conversations with before. So we're trying to keep it as serious and civil as possible.
Yeah.
But let's start with a question I start with everyone, which is,
Mm-hmm.
what is your goal? What do you hope to achieve through your music?
I think for me it's very simple. For me, music is a very personal thing. Like my music is very personal to me, and I'm absolutely passionate about music. I love music, and so for me it's very simple. It's just to be a better musician, to be better basically, to be better than what I was yesterday. That's how I look at it. And I belong to a school of thought that believes that music is an art of self-expression, right? So and I think it's a two-way street, that one. If you believe that being honest and pure and genuine in life would reflect in your music, and if there's for some reason you're not that way in life, but if you stick towards being honest, pure, and genuine in your music, even that will reflect in your life. I think it works both ways. So when I say I want to be better than what I was yesterday, I think it works in both ways. As a musician and as a person, I think that's what I aim to achieve. And other than that, I'm very passionate about music as well as the musical community. So one thing I want to achieve, I don't know if it's achieve the right word, but one thing that I want to target at is at some point, whenever the time comes, I should be able to walk away from the stage, which I don't see happening. In the sense that, see, I'm a musician, I'm an instrumentalist especially. It's a very physical thing. And I know there will be some point in my life where my mind and my body don't cooperate with each other. And I think when such a time comes, I, I, I want to achieve to have the courage, the strength to walk away from the stage. And in that way, I'll be helping the community in the sense that someone who's younger, better, obviously, will be given the opportunity they deserve. And I shouldn't be the one to hog it, because I see it happening. And that's one change that I would like to make personally from my end. So yeah, I think these are the two things that I'd like to achieve through my music.
That's very interesting, because no one's really brought up the point about leaving the stage when necessary, right? When you need to. I
When
think
you
this is a
need to.
concept that doesn't really exist
Yes.
in our community. Why do you
Yes.
think that is? Why do you think it doesn't exist? And why do you think it should exist?
Well, a few reasons. I mean, see, most of these seniors, they've been performing for 50, 60, 70 years, some of them. And I can imagine it being very difficult for them to leave the stage behind. I mean, that's what they've been doing 2/3 of their life, 3/4 of their lives. So that could be one reason. Another one is there is a very fine line between the love for the stage and the lust for the stage. It shouldn't be the latter.
Mm.
And person just feels that they should keep on performing no matter what. And I don't think that should be the case. You have to realize when things change in your body,
Mm.
in your mind.
Mm.
Another thing could be organizers. Organizers love getting in big names. Organizers love repeating big names.
Mm.
And I think organizers also take undue advantage of these aging musicians because they are big names. There's no two ways about it. And getting them to perform at your concerts will guarantee you full houses.
Mm.
So it's that as well. Also, the audiences. The thing with audiences is that deep within they realize that the artist that they would admire for so many years, for 30, 40 years that they've been listening, they probably know that they shouldn't be on stage anymore.
Mm.
Yet they have this whole God worship thing that's going for them. I've had people say to me personally that no, we don't come for the music anymore. हम तो बस दर्शन लेने के लिए आते हैं.
Right. Yeah.
That's the lingo that's used. So
Yeah.
I think these are a few reasons why I feel they should leave the stage. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, now ये audience के दर्शन के चक्कर में 3 other artists who are probably much more deserving would have had full stomachs for the month
Mm. Mm.
on one artist's fee.
Mm.
And I think these are things that you should think about. You should
Mm.
think about. Especially if you're in the field for 50, 60, 70 years, that means you're very passionate about the field, right?
Mm.
And you should be passionate about the community as well then.
Mm.
You should think about it.
Mm. Let's talk about God worship a bit more, because again, that's something we haven't spoken
Yeah.
about. I see a lot of posts, like people put a lot of posts putting a senior artist name and then putting God in front of it. I personally I wouldn't call anybody God, because I
Right.
think it takes away from a lot of things. We've spoken about this.
Of
So
course.
why don't you talk a bit more about that? Why do you think God worshipping can be bad for this community and for the mentality of this generation and the coming generations?
See, as an audience perspective, I can't speak a lot about them God worshipping artists. I mean, it's silly, I feel, but can't complain about that. When musicians do it themselves, it's a little funny to me. Because the moment you think of someone as a god, then you immediately distinguish themselves as something completely separate. That means you also believe that you yourself as a musician can never reach that stature or never reach that level of excellence. It's not even about stature. It's about artistically, you start believing that you can never be that excellent, which is not a very healthy way to think, right? I mean, as a musician, you should be ambitious and you should try to achieve the best that you can.
Right.
And the moment you think of someone as a god, then that's it. Then you've made a clear distinction over there. And that person's
Yeah, and
god.
also you're just
You're just human. So
yeah, and like you said, you completely, then you're kind of telling yourself that I can never get there.
yeah.
And if you're an artist, I don't think, fine, humility is a good thing to have,
Of course.
but I think that's just, you're completely stopping yourself from reaching anywhere.
Yeah.
And that attitude of, I mean, I guess there has to be a time when you have to think that I do want to reach that stage.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody has different ambitions in life. But why do you not want to reach that stage? As soon as you call somebody God, then that's it's out of reach, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how people look at the term God, at least. It's out of reach.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
I told you this earlier, like calling an artist God also takes away from the hard work that they've done to achieve where they are
yeah,
today, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, so yeah, it's a little silly actually.
Mm. Do you think
Frankly.
that let's get into image building, because I remember you asked this question with Yadnesh and Tejavrush,
Yeah,
right? When I
yeah,
did my session with them,
yeah. In
you
fact,
asked
I
about
asked
image
this
building.
during the first one actually.
During the first one, sorry, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
correct,
yeah, yeah.
with Anubrata and Pratik.
Honorable empathy. Yeah.
Um, do you think the god worshipping is a result of image building?
Like you mean when a musician looks at an artist as a god,
Mm.
that musician's image,
Yeah,
like the one.
yeah, and then obviously
I
doesn't
mean,
that rub off on people in our generation then?
yeah. I mean, if you're looking to create an image of being overly humble,
Mm.
which I don't believe you should. I mean, if you're humble, you're humble. It should show in the way you are. But throwing these terms around of calling someone God and all, it, see, at some point it starts seeming a little fake, doesn't it?
Mm.
Because you can't actually believe someone's a god.
Yeah, right.
You can't actually believe that. I
Mm.
mean, when you ask yourself in the mirror, like, do I really think this person's a god? But you go on Facebook and social media and keep writing God is playing and God is singing, and of course it's fake.
I
You
think
can't really.
Devina's mentioned a really interesting point. She's written, also remember, nobody is allowed to criticize God for anything,
Exactly.
right? Which is a great point. Like,
Yeah,
as
exactly.
soon as, I think this is also something else. I think people, for some reason, people think that when I look up to somebody, I'm never going to
Yeah,
criticize them for what they do. And I
yeah,
personally don't think that. If I look up to a musician or an artist or a dancer, it's not that I find everything about them like absolutely immaculate. And that's why
exactly,
I
exactly,
I get inspired by them.
exactly,
Like that's
exactly.
not necessarily the case. I think
Of course,
inspiration is way more than finding somebody to be perfect, you
exactly,
know.
exactly.
And I think that concept hasn't really normalized
Yeah, yeah.
with
You have to
community.
listen to music in a practical way. Also, being a musician yourself, like I'm speaking completely from a musician's perspective,
Mm,
and you have to be critical. And again, as Devina said, you're not allowed to criticize God for anything,
mm,
which is uh, which is very toxic because then I can't have a conversation with a friend of mine who believes a certain artist to be a god. I can't have a conversation with him saying that, yeah, but his last gig wasn't that great. Or, he did this or he did that in his last performance, but which wasn't up to the mark. It'll
mm.
end up being a fight. It'll end up being an argument. It won't be a
Yeah,
conversation then.
yeah, yeah.
So it's toxic in that way, God worshipping someone.
Mm. Let's get back to image building though. What do you think about image building? Do you think we are conditioned, like especially because we've grown up
Hmm.
in households that's full of music, so we've been
Hmm.
surrounded by it?
Right.
Have you been? I don't know what the word should be. Have you been a victim of image building? Have you consciously tried to build an image because you thought that if I act like this, then people will take me more seriously? And if I try to
Uh,
be a bit too much of myself, people won't. Has that
See,
been an issue?
thankfully, during that stage of your life, when you're like about 16, 17, 18, where
Mm,
these things are bound to impact you more.
mm,
During this phase of my life, I wasn't, I didn't have any friends who were Indian classical musicians.
mm,
I wasn't in that circuit. So I didn't, had I been, probably these things could have influenced me because
mm,
it did later on.
mm,
When I was about 20 to 23, I had a lot of musician friends. And then I would see how they would behave, how they would try to project a certain image. And it did rub off on me. I remember being 24, 25 and putting on a kurta and being all, you know what, I'm an Indian classical musician. I'm, I'm probably elite for all you know.
mm, mm.
Like all, everyone else, what do you play? Oh, a guitarist, beneath me. That kind of thing happened with me.
Right.
It did, honestly speaking. Thankfully, again, like if even a 15, 16-year-old musician would approach me who's Indian classical himself, I would be all like, kya hai, like a typical, because I've seen a lot of senior musicians behave that way,
Mm,
you know,
mm, mm.
and these are musicians who are very well respected, who are
Right.
taken seriously. So
Mm,
this image building thing happens when you feel that you're not being taken seriously enough, and then you try to project something in which you feel that you will be taken seriously henceforth.
mm, mm,
Thankfully, this didn't happen with me at 17, 18, because if it did, that would be the way of my life. I would be like that.
mm,
Because it happened much later, I did this for a couple of years. Then I took a step back. I was like, okay, what the hell am I doing?
mm.
It's not me. Like, this is not cool.
I mean, I've seen I mean, I'm 23 years old, right?
Yeah.
And again, I keep saying this in every single session that I do with people. I was brought up in a very different way because I was brought up in London.
Right.
And I I'm gonna say this out loud. I'm so lucky that I was brought up here because I feel like being brought up in India in that community, if I had been, I'm not generalizing. I'm sure there are people who don't take into the image building thing as seriously. I don't know. But I think I would have been a lot more scared to speak out about things.
Right.
I would have been a lot more conscious about the way I speak, the way I look, the way I talk. Uh,
Right.
it would have been a lot more difficult for me to even do this show, for example,
Right.
right? Even coming, like deciding that I'm going to do this show would have been a really big thing. Like I probably would
Right.
never have come up with this idea because
Yeah.
I think that young generation artists are generally always told to keep shut. I
Yes.
mean, the other day I was, told on my Facebook Live, there was a comment where it was like, you
Yeah,
shouldn't be
there
talking
was.
now, you should just do your riyaz.
Durias. Yeah.
And, it's like, okay, my work will speak for itself. I don't think I need to justify how much riyaz I do on a show where, well,
Yes.
I don't need to justify how much riyaz I do anywhere. Do you know what I mean? So that mentality is always there. The people are always going to be like, oh, you're small now, just do your riyaz, don't talk
Yeah.
so much now.
Yeah.
Why are you talking about this stuff now? But what I genuinely believe is that if you don't start young and you don't start talking about and out about things when you're young, you're never going to do it.
Never do.
You're
Exactly.
never going to do it because
Exactly.
you're going to become so comfortable in that space and in that box that you're in,
Exactly.
where you're like, I'm so
Exactly.
comfortable here, I'm so
Exactly.
safe, everybody likes me, and I like everyone, and we love everybody in this community. Like that that mentality is very toxic according to me. It's better always to address problems, speak about
Yeah.
them, try and find a
Yeah.
solution, and maybe change will come in 1 year, maybe change will come in 50 years.
50
Yes,
years
you
later.
don't
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if you felt that, but I felt that whenever I go to India, there's always a group of people who are like, why do you speak so much? Why are you talking so much?
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Why
this
don't you?
comes back to the whole thing that this ICM field has
Mm,
a lot to do with age, unfortunately.
mm,
See, if you're a 40-year-old musician
mm,
who's been in the field for 10 years, you
mm,
will be taken a lot more seriously than a 25-year-old in the field for 15 years.
mm, yeah, yeah,
This happens.
yeah,
And that's why you have 18, 19, 20-year-olds behaving like 40-year-olds.
yeah.
For that reason, just to be taken seriously. That's all the young musicians are asking for. That,
Mm,
please take us seriously. We're good at what we do. We're not that bad.
mm. Yeah, I mean
And yeah.
like you sent me, we read an article the other day,
Yeah.
and it was about awards and
Yeah.
how a, how a certain award, and like, what is the definition of youth in our community? What is the age, like, where are the boundaries, like,
Oh man.
because according to that article, even an 80-year-old artist is a youth.
Yeah, that's what it
So
said. It actually said
that's what
that,
it
didn't it?
said. It actually said that, right? And because we don't take names on this show, but it mentioned an
Yeah.
artist who was
I mean,
80 and said
then
that,
it would make sense to give that 80-year-old artist a Yuva Puraskar.
yeah. So if you're if you're giving, where is that line? Where is that line of when you're a yuva and when you're not? Then there's no point of putting that word. You could just call it puraskar and not call it anything.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think I think that's something that we as a community really need to think about, because
Yeah.
clearly what you're saying about not being taken seriously, it happens all the time. And then if you're a girl like me, then to done, that's it. I'm a girl, I'm a
Oh
dancer,
my God,
and
what are
I'm
you
only
doing?
23 years old. So it's mad. It's madness. Like there's nothing being taken seriously there at all. But so somebody, Christopher Serju Siprasad says, the image building is important as far as professionalism, but can you be authentic and still build image? Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the whole point. To not project yourself as something
Mm,
and to just be it. I know
mm,
a lot of people who are something completely different off stage,
mm.
like
Yeah,
180 degrees.
yeah,
And that's crazy, right? How do you do that? I mean, you have split personality. How do you manage to do that? And that takes so much effort, I feel.
mm,
Be
mm.
two different people, to be very conscious about it. That takes a hell of an effort,
Yeah.
waste of
I just
energy.
feel like firstly you're not being authentic to your art form. Then, because you're
Yeah,
not being the person that you really are
yeah,
in
yeah,
life. Second, you are preventing yourself from interacting with people on a real level, right?
yeah,
Like, fine, you're a professional human being, but that doesn't
yeah,
mean you're not going to interact with people on a very personal basis sometimes.
yeah,
And I think
yeah.
this is where, like, Divina asked this question in the last session with Rohan that I had: is can we not be friends? Can we not make friends in this community?
Oh
What do you
man.
have to say about that? Do you think you can really be friends with someone in this? I mean, I know, like, we're friends. I did the
Yeah,
episode with
yeah,
Unmesh. We're very good friends. um but I mean, what do you have to say about that? Because then it comes down to unity as well. We'll go into unity from there, because
yeah.
that's also a very important topic.
It's very rare. It's very rare. I mean, we are friends, Udmesh and like all of us we are friends
Mm,
because we belong to different subgenres within the music.
mm,
You know, once if you have two sarod players or two kathak dancers, two tabla
mm,
players, and they'll be extremely sweet to each other on their faces, extremely sweet. But you know for a fact that they're not behind your back,
mm, mm.
right? I mean, once again, is my connection bad? Is their connection bad?
No, it's fine. We can hear you
Fine.
still.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just your
So
video is a bit
this
weird.
happens. It's very unfortunate, and I for myself, I can say that I have about 5 or 6 good friends, and I think a couple of them max might be from the fraternity.
Mm, mm,
In terms of good friends, I have friends, I have acquaintances, I
mm,
have I have a good working relationship with a lot of people, but I don't have anyone that I can call at 2 a.m. in the night and just have a conversation with.
mm, mm.
It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. I don't.
But that
It's
comes down to unity as well, right? Because
yeah,
we
exactly.
backbite a lot. Like
A
this,
lot.
there's so much backbiting that goes on.
So man, so
Like
much. Like
it's
I've
mad.
told you, right? Like there are people who've been super sweet to me on my face, and they've gone on to say things behind my back. So someone said that I play sarangi on the sarod. I don't even play sarod anymore. You know, things like that.
Mm, mm,
For me personally, I think that is a compliment because I've achieved in playing Gaiking on the sarod, which I've been aiming for. So
mm,
it's fine. But of course,
mm,
they say it in a vicious way, and
mm,
that viciousness is the problem.
mm.
You can criticize someone behind their back. I don't
Right.
mind that. You can
Mm,
criticize it. It could be constructive. You can hope that somehow this reaches that person's ear because
mm.
I can't tell them personally. You know, they'll feel bad.
They'll feel bad. Yeah. Or you don't have
As long
that
as
kind of relationship with that person.
yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly. As
mm,
far as it's constructive, it's fine. But just bitching about somebody throughout, it's very unhealthy,
mm,
and
mm.
it's a problem. Then how do you have unity?
Yeah. I
It's
think
lacking.
unity also has to come, like I mentioned this again in the last session. If there are, and I'm talking about privileged musicians here, like I think Rohan and I got to this place in our
Yeah,
discussion where Rohan was like, some people will perform for even 2000 because they just need to eat,
yeah,
right? And fine, I understand that. I'm not in that position. I haven't really gone through that struggle of understanding what it feels like to not have food for a day.
yeah,
I've been very
yeah.
lucky. I have shelter. I have all the necessities that I need
Right,
in my life.
right.
But I feel like there are still people like us who are privileged who will still perform for a
Yeah.
very, very horrible amount of money, which makes no sense, right?
Yeah, it doesn't.
And
It
then
doesn't.
you're basically devaluing yourself and the art form.
Yes. Yes.
But then
Artists.
if I say no, there's 10 other dancers to say yes to that gig,
Yeah.
which
So
is the
that's
problem.
which is the problem. But again, I really feel artists have to learn to say no to organizers.
Mm,
A lot of people feel ki nahi yaar, they'll feel bad. It's an opportunity. This and this.
mm, mm,
But I think the field has grown enough that you will not lack opportunities.
mm,
I think it's grown enough. I think there are enough opportunities for everyone, and which is why I feel that there's no need to backbite.
right.
There can be 5 brilliant solo players in a given generation. Why not? See, backbiting happens in the sense that you try to push yourself ahead by saying something bad about someone else.
Mm,
I mean, that's horrible. That's absolutely horrible.
mm,
It makes no sense to do that because at the end of the day, your art's going to show on the stage anyway. People are going to be listening to you anyway. They're going to know anyway. What's the point of all this talking behind the back?
mm, mm.
It's just spreading negativity within yourself
Yeah.
more than anything else.
I mean, see, we're never going to have an idealistic world where everybody's going to like everybody. That's
Yeah.
never going to happen. I think unity can come even without being friends with each other. I think what we need to realize is that we're a part of one community. And at the end
Yeah.
of the day, what we're trying to do is present our music as well
Yeah.
as we can to an audience,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And to do as well as we can for ourselves and for the people we love, maybe. But
Exactly.
and if we can keep that in mind, hopefully we can take a few steps to at least not like there are people who will do anything as soon as a sarod player sees that you've got a gig, they'll call that organizer up and be like, "Arey, why are you not taking me?" Like this happens
And
all the time, and maybe it doesn't just happen in this field; it happens in all fields, I guess.
probably.
But I mean, we're such a small community; everybody knows everybody, and this is the funny
Yeah.
thing, right? Because news
Yeah.
travels. News
Exactly.
travels like mad in this community. Everybody finds out what everybody said about everyone, and
Exactly.
I think that makes the situation even worse because then you're just finding out stuff from here
Yeah.
and there, everywhere.
Yeah. Exactly. Like I performed in Kolkata last year, right?
Yeah, yeah. How was that experience?
Experience was great. The concert, the audience, everyone very very warm and everything. That was lovely.
Mm,
But of course, we know that Kolkata is known for sarod players.
mm,
You've got an amazing crop of sarod players in Kolkata. So the moment this concert got fixed, the organizer gets called by at least 10 people saying, why we call the sarod player from outside? I mean, what is it? Like our sarod players commodities now.
mm.
Like, don't they have their own different styles that they can project on the stage?
Right, right.
It's not like we're not expendable in that sense.
Yeah, you're not all the same.
Yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
if they feel that we're all the same, then that's a big problem in itself, isn't it?
is that a lot to do with Maharashtra versus Kolkata musicians, though?
It's possible. I mean, see, both states are very, Maharashtra, West Bengal, both are very proud of their cultures.
Mm,
And I think both states feel that they are the hub of classical music,
mm,
which both of them are in very different ways. I think Kolkata has produced some of the finest instrumentalists that we have, and Maharashtra has produced some of the finest vocalists that we have, which is
mm.
why we don't have a very blooming instrumental scene in Maharashtra.
Right.
As a performing artist in Maharashtra, I find it very difficult to get concerts. Most of my concerts, especially in Pune, most of my concerts are outside, then Karnataka, or Delhi, or somewhere
Mm,
in the center.
mm,
Because it's a very vocal oriented state.
mm, mm.
Like any given festival will have 4 vocalists and 1 instrumentalist.
And no dance.
What?
Every time you say this is what I say, right? It's like you have. I think we've just lost Abhishek for a bit. I don't know what's happened, but I think we've lost him. I'm just gonna wait and see if there's been some connection issue. We've lost him at quite an interesting stage. He's smiling nicely. I'm gonna try and Everybody, please hang on. We're just going to try and see if we can get Abhishek back. There's obviously some internet connection, like issues happening with him. Oh, I am back. It's just me. We're going to try and get him back. Please don't. Just keep some patience and hopefully we can get Abhishek back on. But while we're waiting for Abhishek, at least, if you have any questions for Abhishek, please put them in the comment section below. It'll be really interesting to see what you guys want to talk about. I mean, these are issues that I've always wanted to speak about with all the musicians, and Cut the Crap has been getting amazing response. We've been getting amazing response. For those people coming in now, Abhishek's just had a bit of an issue with his internet, so we're just waiting for him to come back. But Cut the Crap has really got some amazing response. I've been getting messages personally telling me about how informative and how amazing it's been to listen to musicians, organizers, talking about topics that don't usually get spoken about. So it's been amazing. I'm really happy that people have been coming in and watching the show and really appreciating it. We've kind of grown a little family who always come in to watch every single episode, and I think that's something that's very, very important. So I really hope that more people will come and watch these episodes, because I think it's very important to listen to what artists have to say about different issues and not just the music. Obviously we spend a lot of our time as artists doing our riyaz and taking our talim and things like that, but I think it's also very important to be socially aware and to see how music connects to all the other issues in the world. And this is the last episode with Abhishek, and I really hope Abhishek can come back. I don't know what's happening with his connection. I'm going to wait a little more and wait for Abhishek to come back, rejoin us hopefully. But I am starting season 2 of Cut the Crap on the 25th, and I'm going to be announcing who the artist is after this session is done. It's been an amazing journey. I have plans to call a lot more artists and speak to a variety of artists from dance, music, more organizers, because I think it's very important to get perspectives of organizers, of artists, of maybe even critics. It's a very important thing to have perspectives from different fields, right? Again, I'm just waiting for Abhishek to get back. Music is part of society, so all bad things like backbiting or bitching happens in music too. Yes, that is true. I would have loved it if Abhishek was here to talk about all of these things with me. Looks like the connection is really bad on his end. Again, please hang around. He's just messaged me saying he's trying to reconnect with us, so please hold on. Pratik says, it is my observation many of the ICM artists actually work on themselves to achieve a kind of weird duality, which they consider as a positive quality. And they are often encouraged for maintaining that. As you said, split personality. How can we unite when one person has too many contradicting shades? I mean, this is amazing. What you've said, what you've written you're hitting the nail on its head. Okay, he's waiting. I think Abhishek is joining us, so please wait. I'm really sorry about the connection issues. Okay.
Wait. I'm on my phone and
Okay.
I've lost electricity.
Okay. Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're on again.
Are we live?
Yeah. We're live. We're still live. I've been live. I've been talking on your behalf. I've been talking on your behalf. So Abhishek, yes.
Talk about the connection between Maharashtra and Kolkata. Kolkata gets a cyclone and I lose electricity in Maharashtra.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Crazy connections. Unity. Nature has brought unity.
Yep.
Why can't we? It's bad. Well, I was reading Pratik's comment.
Uh-huh.
And I think he said something amazing. He said, it is my observation, many of the ICM artists actually work on themselves to achieve a kind of weird duality, which they consider as a positive quality. and they are often encouraged for maintaining that. As you said, split personality. How can we unite when one person has too many contradicting shades?
But why is this? Why is this encouraged? I don't understand. Why should an artist be two different things? I don't understand this whole
I
concept.
I think what he's trying to say, well, I have my own thoughts of why I
Mhm.
think that happens. I think that happens because generally, and this is not just limited to the Indian classical music fraternity, I think
Mhm.
generally people like other people who are a little quieter when it comes to their opinions. People who are a little more kind of, what's the word,
Mm.
right? Someone who agrees with most things,
Are you saying
right?
people don't like you?
I, I mean,
Surprise!
wow. Are you saying that I'm too opinionated? Man, that's what you're saying. I am very
Perhaps.
I am very opinionated, and I believe that artists should be opinionated.
Should be exactly.
Because if they're not, then they don't have they haven't built a personality, and all
Yeah,
they're doing is
exactly.
going on stage, playing their music, and coming back.
There we go.
There's no sense of responsibility. Your electricity is back.
Yeah, you said the truth. That's what
I
the
said the
comment
truth.
says.
Wow. But yeah, I think artists really need to build personality. I don't think as artists our only job is to go on stage, perform, and come back.
Yeah,
I
of
think we
course.
should have a sense of responsibility. But what do you have to say with what Prateek said? And I think Abhishek is stuck. Are you stuck? No, you're not stuck.
I'm not stuck. Am I
Okay.
stuck?
No, you're not. You're fine.
Okay. No, of course I agree with them with this duality thing happening. And there are a few artists like Pratik himself. Like it's not the case with him,
Mm.
right? And I'm sure like if we have more artists like us, basically, we can I think mold a generation in the future to not be that way, because I think a lot of that we are, that we say, that we do are all based on the things that we've seen in our previous generation,
Mm. Mm.
isn't it?
Mm.
And I don't know why it's been the case. I mean, like even the whole thing that we spoke in the start about creating an image, appearing a certain way, appearing a little intimidating. These things. We've seen this happen in the previous generation. Like we've seen it happen to us. So we
Mm.
feel that we can do it to the next generation.
Mm. Mm.
And I think this duality thing comes from there, because we've seen artists, we've we've hung out with artists, right, off stage as well, and we've seen that they're very different
Yes.
when they're not
Oh yeah.
performing.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
very different.
I mean,
So
I've seen it come down to the smallest of things. Like they
uh,
they will not laugh out loud.
right,
Like it's as
right,
simple as that. Like they will not laugh out loud and like crack a simple joke when they're in their kurta or in their
right,
in their salwar kameez or sari, because they're
yeah,
like, I'm a serious artist now. And
yeah,
artists don't joke around and speak loudly. We speak very softly and we sit like this. And uh I think that's sad. And even though it might seem like it's a small thing, I actually think it's a really big thing, because
it
it
is.
starts with that. And then it
Yes.
kind of grows into a bigger thing where you become
Yeah,
this very um you I think you become a very arrogant human being. So when somebody tries
yes,
to approach you because they like your music or they like your dance, you're like,
yes,
why should I talk to you? I'm so big, I'm an artist.
yeah,
um
yeah.
but have you faced that? Have you gone to a gig, tried to meet an artist you really admire, met them, and then felt seriously disappointed because of the way that they behaved with you?
Yes, it happened when I was a lot younger, when I think I was 16 or 17, where and it was completely unexpected, right? You don't
Mm,
expect that to ever happen. When it
mm,
happens, it really breaks your heart, especially at that age. And then you can't feel the same way about the artist anymore, right? Lately, it's not happened because first of all, I haven't attended a lot of concerts, and whatever artists that I've met at festivals have been artists that have been part of the same festival that I've performed in as well.
mm,
So now they look at me as an artist.
mm,
Okay. Earlier, like what happened when I was younger is that I approached them myself as a sarod player or a learning sarodist or something like that. And that also changed, right? I mean,
Mm.
it shouldn't be different. You should, as an artist, you shouldn't look at a young 16-year-old sarod player different to a young 16-year-old audience member.
Right.
Why should that also matter?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So yeah, it's happened, and I think a lot of artists enjoy this sense of intimidation that they create about themselves.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
do. I don't understand why. Like, I don't understand why even now, after everyone, like after the whole world has heard their music, after the whole world knows how good they are at their art, why do you still have to come off as an unapproachable person?
Mm. Mm.
That's the word, right?
It's almost untouchable. Like you can't touch
Yeah,
them
yeah.
because they're so high up that you're unable to
It's
speak to
almost
them.
as if they believe the things that they say about the music being a mystery and the whole mysticism that surrounds it.
Yeah,
It's a
that's another topic, right?
it's a great marketing package for audiences in the West. It
Mm.
is, but come on,
Mm.
you
Mm.
got to be practical about it. You got to be realistic about it. But I think they've started believing that this whole
Mm.
thing is music of the gods and things like that. And I think
I mean,
that's
I
what
guess
makes
there
them
is a
feel that they're
spirit.
special.
I think if you believe personally that there's a spiritual connection, there could be,
There could be,
right?
and I think there should be
And
also,
there should
because
be,
it
right?
is. I mean, it is music that's originated from the Vedas and stuff like that. It's
Mm.
the history is massive as far as the
Mm.
music goes.
Mm.
But you can't keep selling the music based on that point, can you?
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Davina's saying something. She's saying finding musicians with opinions and positions about the music and almost anything else in the world is very rare in ICM. Everyone wants to be safe because the consequences of speaking your mind and being honest can be very difficult to manage. It shouldn't be like
Yeah.
that, of course. So
Yeah.
my question is related to this. Why do you think there's so much fear? Right? So if for people who don't know, Abhishek has created all the posters for Cut the Crap. So in that process, I have spoken to Abhishek a lot about Cut the Crap and just generally like these topics we speak about a lot. And
Hmm.
we've consistently spoken about fear and how people are so scared about speaking out. Why do you think, because I live here and I'm very away from that world
Yeah.
most of the year. And I don't really understand why there's fear. But why do you think there's fear?
I think the
What are
fear is
your-
mainly amongst people
Mm.
who care about just performing on stage.
Mm.
See, I know you as a person, I know you don't care about that. For
Mm.
you love dance as a subject, and performing on stage is a byproduct of you loving what you do. Same with me.
Exactly. Mm.
Like, I practice, I play music every day. Being on stage, not being on stage, it doesn't matter to me. If I'm on stage, great, I can share what I know with everyone else. Fear comes from people, I feel, who practice music only to be on stage. Like, that's their only aim, to be a
Mm.
stage performer. That's it. And the fear is because they feel that if they say something, they won't get that stage.
Mm. Mm.
It's out of that insecurity that they don't speak up. I think it all boils down to just being on stage for them. That's
Mm.
all that matters to them. There's so many artists who are clearly not even ready to be on stage, right?
But don't
But
you
they
think that
have,
there's a lot of people who are like us also, who don't just do it for
yes,
the stage, who are still scared to speak out? I mean, I can only count maybe like 3 or 4 artists in our generation who will genuinely sit down and speak out about things.
right.
Does that mean the rest of them don't do music because they love it as a byproduct of it, or they just do it for the stage? I don't. I mean, this is the thing, right? I think fear has been put into us. It's been
Yes,
injected into us
yes,
by the
yeah,
generations before us.
definitely, definitely. As I said, a lot of the things we say and do are influenced by them.
Mm. Mm.
See, this, I'm going to go back to that whole intimidating thing. Why does an artist feel nervous when you have a senior sitting in front? You shouldn't. You should feel
Right.
inspired if anything else.
Right. Mm.
I've heard stories, not stories, I mean, we've seen this happen almost every day on a daily basis,
Mm.
where a student practices his ass off, nails everything that his guru's given him,
Mm.
goes in front of the guru
Mm.
and says, "Arey Guruji samne aa gaya to mere haath ruk gaye." I couldn't play what I wanted to play because my Guruji was in front of me. Like, it should be the other way around, shouldn't it? My best concerts, personally, I feel, have been the ones in which my father, my Guru, has been in front of me in the front row. It's a huge inspiration to have a senior or a Guru in front of you. But with artists who feel that they feel intimidated, my hands started shaking when I saw my Guru in front of me, or when I saw the senior in front of me. I think in that sense, then you have failed as a senior musician to not instill inspiration in a youngster. And the very fact that you have created this image that if I'm in front of you, you should be shitting your pants on stage.
Then
Doesn't work.
that's a problem, right?
That's
I mean, I can only wonder, like, when we get to that stage, what we're gonna do. Because obviously, especially like after doing this show, I'm a bit scared, like after, like when I'm like 50 or 60.
Even after all this, if you turn out to be like that, oh man, I'm gonna come up here with a stick.
Like shit, right? Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty shit. But we've seen this throughout. I've seen this through doing Cut the Crap. The number of people who've been scared to come on this show because they don't know what I'm going to ask them. And I don't tell people what I'm going to ask them. I give them topics. Like, I give them topics, like, we're going to speak about this. But I don't give them questions because, to be very honest, I don't know what I'm going to ask them. Like, I don't formulate my questions like that. And I think that's how it should be. A conversation cannot be scripted. Like, we cannot have these conversations if they're scripted, because then because there's so much fear, people are going to sit at home, formulate their answers, and come on my show. And then literally the whole point is there's no point of it.
It's lost. Right? The whole point's lost.
But let's talk about publicity now. I wanted to talk to you about this because I know you have views on this. When it comes to a main artist and a tabla player, right? So if there's a gig happening and the organizer doesn't put the tabla player's photo first scenario, they don't put the tabla player's photo or tabla player's name. Second, they put the photo, but it's a lot smaller than your photo. Right? What do you think about that? Do you not think that it's time that there's more equality when it comes to that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, see, now, again, like, I've heard stories from the 60s and 70s and 80s where the tabla players had to carry the main artist's stuff for him, carry his bags for him. It's absurd, right, to imagine that happening in today's times. So, of course, times have changed. So, that shouldn't be happening. Personally, you know why I've made such beautiful posters for Cut the Crap? Because I've been in the habit of making posters for my own concerts now. Because organizers, a lot of organizers wouldn't do it. Some of them do it, and some of them do it and they make it out to look like we're doing you a favor, because this shit matters to you. You don't want to do it, but let's just do it. Some of them do it from the kindness of their hearts because they understand what the scene is. A lot of young organizers do it. Right. A lot of organizers our age, like in their 30s, they do it. A lot of the older ones don't do it because I think they have the mindset that an accompanist is an accompanist at the end of the day. Right? You're not the main artist. But again, you can't go on stage without an accompanist. So I can understand if the photo is not 50-50. I can understand if it's 60-40. Okay, I mean, that's the ratio that I can work with. If it's lesser than that, then I send the poster to the tabla player. Okay, I of course send a message to the organizer saying that I'm not happy with what you've done. But I send it to the tabla player as well. If they have an issue as well, then I'll tell the organizer. Yeah, because a lot of tabla players don't, right? They don't. It doesn't matter to them. But also we are in such an age of marketing ourselves. Yeah. That it's not only the main artist's job to market a concert. The tabla player has to do it as well. And the tabla player will do it with all their heart only if the photos on it. Okay. It's obvious. Why would they want to otherwise? Yeah, I mean that's exactly. So but you're talking about the 60-40 ratio. But then there has to be like set laws when it comes to making posters, right?
for any
They have
concert,
to
because
be
then
set laws.
who's gonna go up to every single organizer and be like, there needs to be a 60-40 ratio, or there needs to be a 50-50 ratio? Like, no one's gonna do that.
It's not even going to be a mathematical ratio. It's just you see something, right? You see a poster
Mm,
and you see a big photo and a small photo. You just know it looks weird.
mm,
It's a visual thing, right? A poster is also a visual thing. It should be aesthetic also.
mm.
And this won't look aesthetic in any sense.
But there's a lot of people who say the opposite, who say that we don't put the tabla players on there because it loses out on aesthetics, because there's
Yeah,
too many people on the poster. So
yeah.
then you have
I
to
happen to agree.
decide what's more important, aesthetics or like the people getting on stage. Because I mean, personally, I'm a
Yeah,
dancer, right? So I go on stage with 3 other people.
yeah,
The
yeah,
maximum number of people I go on stage is 3. There's a lot of
yeah,
dancers who go on with 5. Okay, but
yeah,
I still have 3 other musicians going on stage with me, and I can't do
yeah,
without them on stage. So
yeah.
if I don't have them on the poster, for me, it's ethical. It's morally wrong. It's the wrong thing to do for me. And I and
Yes,
I I really couldn't give 2 shits about your aesthetics, as far as it comes to the
yeah,
yeah, like literally, I have to have my tabla player, my sarod player, sitar player, and the vocalist on the poster. I have to, because without them, I can't do what I'm doing on stage. And
of
I
course.
think that comes down to gratitude and being thankful for the people you have with you, right?
Right, right. And
So
see, in
yeah.
today's age, we have Facebook. I mean, that's the major marketing tool.
Mm,
Facebook, Instagram are the major marketing tool.
mm,
You can have 2 photos.
mm,
You can have a photo of yourself, poster of yourself, poster of the accompanist. It's
mm,
simple. They're going to
mm.
appear side by side anyway when you post it.
Yeah, yeah. I
Why
agree
not
with that.
just do that? Why not just do that? It's so simple. I
Mm.
mean, if the tabla player wishes, he could also just share his poster. That's fine.
Mm, mm, mm,
At the end of the day, you're going to get more audience for your concert.
mm,
I know.
mm. What do you think about artists not being socially aware? Because I don't think artists are socially aware. And I'm
Yeah,
talking about like, I think artists are very much in their bubble.
bubble. Yeah, I was just going to say
We
that. Yeah,
only know about this community, and we don't really, and even if we know about something else, we don't really want to talk about it. Again, it comes
yeah.
down to that whole playing
Safe,
safe
exactly,
situation.
exactly. Yeah,
Uh,
it's sad that the artist feels the need to play safe all the time.
mm,
I mean, you can imagine how insecure they must be, or how insecure they must have been made to feel that they feel like they should play safe all the time.
mm,
Even
mm.
for Cut the Crap, I have so many conversations with artists, and I've like, of course, we approached artists together, right? Even I asked a few people if they would like to be on
Yeah,
the show,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and a lot of people, our generation, our age, clearly said that, yeah, I don't want to get into controversy.
Mad.
Mad, right? I mean, how
Where's
is
the controversy,
how is
man?
any of this controversial?
Yeah, these are normal topics. I've gotten messages saying I've told you this. People have been like, this is negative conversation.
Yeah,
Well,
and
yeah, it's negative.
yeah, and why not? If there are
Yeah, but
negative things happening, you have to talk about them.
is any community completely positive?
Yeah,
Is there nothing to improve where we are at this moment in time? Like, there's so much we can improve. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I face, and I kind of touched on with Unmesh, was discrimination between the genders, right? Which I think is massive. Discrimination between genders is a crazy thing.
right.
Uh, I want to know from you, because you live in Pune and we've spoken about this, and you know how passionate I am when it comes to Kathak and
Yeah,
how people look down on it. We've had
yeah.
this conversation. I want you to say it for the people watching. Why do you think people look down on Kathak? And why is it so crazily related to the gender inequality situation?
This, I mean, this whole topic would sound like taboo for a lot of listeners, a lot of people who are going to listen to this, but
Hmm.
it is what it is. Uh, Kathak these days, especially over the past 15, 20 years, has been looked at as a predominantly female art form.
Mm,
Like you have, like, that's what it's looked at, female dominated art form, which is a huge reason why it's looked down upon. It's
mm,
very sad. It's the truth, because I've seen it happen, and a lot of conversations uh, which are Kathak related,
Mm. Mm.
which include musicians in them. Very sadly, unfortunately, have very sexual undertones to them.
Mm.
It's very unfortunate. But imagine a situation where you have a tabla, like you spoke to Unmesh about this, right? About tabla
Mm.
players practicing with
Mm.
Kathak dancer.
Yes, yes, yes.
When you have a tabla player practicing with a Kathak dancer, and if they're practicing for more than a week or a couple of weeks, you have 10 musicians saying there's something going on between the two.
Mad.
I've seen it happen. I'm sure you've seen it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the only reason this happens, because it's a female art form. That's how it's looked at.
Mm.
A lot of the times, Kathak is not looked down upon, but a lot of the times, the characters of the dancers is looked down upon.
Mm.
That being said, a few dancers haven't done Kathak any favors
No.
by being the way they are. It's
Mm.
true. It's unfortunate. It happens. But because of this, the whole art form kind of has been generalized as to being a certain way.
Mm. Mm.
And it's very deep rooted now. And it's happened mainly over the past 15, 20 years that I've seen, especially.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
I mean, with the whole feminism culture that's come up lately, it still doesn't help. A lot of dancers still feel the need uh, for concerts, of course, because Kathak concerts don't happen.
Mm.
And
Casting couch.
exactly, there's a very prevalent casting couch culture
This is a
in this
very
community.
sensitive topic, and like if you're going to listen to this and be like, oh, like it doesn't happen, then either don't
Yeah,
watch this or
yeah,
watch it and open your mind. But this happens, and
yeah,
this is something that's very real.
very
It
real,
happens in the
very
music
real.
side too, but
Yes,
it does happen in the music side, but it happens more in the dance side of things. And again, it's to do with gender. We
yes,
as what again, I spoke about this with Unmesh on the thing.
yes,
We as dancers, we get on stage and we use our whole body to dance, which means that the audience is looking at us, not just singing or playing the tabla or playing an instrument. They're
yes,
looking at our whole body, and you have to, because it's movement, right?
yes, of course, of course.
And it comes down to the mentality of the audience, the society. And anyway,
Yeah,
as a society, we've been taught that a woman is not as equal to a man. We are only there to look beautiful. uh, that's all we're
how
there to
unfortunate,
do. Right?
how
Very
unfortunate.
unfortunate. And that really comes off when people watch dance. So I've said this, I'm going to say it again. There's been so many situations where my hair has come out, like while I'm dancing, and then people like, oh, your hair came out, and it's like, why is that a big issue? Doesn't that mean, like, that means I'm working hard? Like, I'm not just there
Yeah,
standing. I'm not standing there to look pretty for you.
yeah,
In fact,
exactly.
I actually think I probably don't look good when I'm dancing. I probably look much better in all other times in my life, right?
Yeah,
And that's because I'm working hard on stage. When tabla
yeah,
players play and they're shaking their heads and they're doing all these mannerisms, or
right.
a sarod player is playing and they look at the tabla player when they land on some, all of that is seen as, wow, it's communication between artists. But then a dancer does the same thing and it's like, oh, but she's not graceful enough. Oh, but she
Yeah,
doesn't look good enough.
yeah,
Oh, but she's not beautiful enough.
yeah,
We're not there to look beautiful.
yeah.
You know,
And
our movements are there to look beautiful. We are not there just as objects that are meant to look good. Um,
yeah,
and
exactly.
I think that's why musicians generally don't really have an idea of Kathak, because
Yeah,
of this. They're not interested. They
agreed.
feel like, why should
Completely
we?
agreed with
Why do we
you.
need to have an
Yeah,
understanding of it?
yeah, yeah. And when they think of Kathak, this is what they think of. These things that I just spoke about.
That's so sad.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. Even as far as Kathak goes, I think, see, with every art form, there is, as a dancer, there's something that you want your audience to take away, right? Like when I listen to a tabla solo,
Mm.
like of course I have been trained in tabla way back before I started my sarod training.
Mm.
So it's not very detailed training. I mean, I know what the bowls, I know the tals, I know a few kaidas.
Mm.
But when I listen to a solo,
Mm.
I look for the peshkar, because that's, for me, that's the most interesting part of a tabla solo. Okay. After that, there are a few compositions that I might recognize, I might not. A few things that are new to me that I would
Right.
enjoy. But peshkar, and probably at the end when they play luggies, it's entertaining. I like it. It's fun
Mm.
to see them go. I think with dance, what's happened is that of course, because of what the Bollywood culture has done to dance, there are
Yeah.
certain things
Mm.
that the audience members look for in a dance performance.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
that's the problem. They look for abhinay, they look for chakkars. That's what they've been trained to look for. Like, take your example. You posted an amazing video of Naumatra playing with
Yeah.
our accompaniment. It's great. I mean, beautiful, amazing lay work happening, very artistic. 200 likes probably.
Mm.
You post a video of you singing and doing abhinay,
Mm.
and that gets what, 1,000 likes.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost. Yeah.
So you
I
see,
I think, see, these are, Abhinay is a really big part of Kathak.
yeah,
It always has been.
of course.
Kathak was predominantly storytelling, right?
Yeah,
So Abhinay has been a massive part of it.
yeah,
But it's evolved like any other art form. Kathak has also
yes,
evolved. Like
yes,
tabla has seriously evolved. Sarod
yes,
has evolved. Sitar has evolved.
exactly,
Vocal music has
exactly,
evolved.
exactly.
These days, like what you were saying, people don't know what to look for in dance. And as a dancer, if I can make any difference, this is why I speak out. It goes back to why we speak out as artists, is because
Right,
even if you can make a difference to one person in your community, it's a massive thing, right? I believe that as a dancer, it's very close to being a tabla player. Your lay has to be very good.
exactly,
If a dancer's lay is bad, they're not a good dancer. They can't be, possibly.
exactly.
It's like saying a tabla player with bad lay is a good tabla player. That doesn't work like that, right?
Wow.
In fact, a bad musician with a bad musician is somebody who doesn't have good lay. It's very simple,
Simple,
right?
simple, yeah, yeah.
So I don't know why that doesn't apply to Kathak or anything else. I think it's a very sad situation, and it comes down to how people look at dance.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I just think more musicians also need to be, I mean, there's a massive comment by Pepe, and that's going to
Oh,
take a whole like 5 minutes to just read.
I think I'll read it later and respond to it
You can read
personally.
later and respond to it.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think
oh,
it's also, it comes on to the fact that Kathak dancers don't get enough opportunities, so they look for shortcuts to get gigs.
mm,
And so they'll post videos on Instagram, they'll dance to Bollywood, they'll get themselves a fan following. See, it matters, right?
yeah, it
When
matters. I
when an
mean,
organizer goes to Instagram, sees that you have 20,000 followers,
mm,
immediately you'll get a gig.
mm,
It doesn't
mm,
matter what you dance, you have
mm,
that following, which
mm.
means you probably will sell tickets if there are tickets.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, tickets and non-ticketed concerts.
Hmm.
Why do you think people are so scared to have tickets? It's a simple question, really, because you've performed for First Edition Arts, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Davina's very close to you,
Hmm.
and she has a very, very specific principle when it comes to tickets,
Yes.
and I think it's a great one. And she doesn't call the big names, right?
Right.
She likes to give opportunities to people who she genuinely feels are
Yeah.
doing good music
Yeah.
and are upcoming artists,
Yeah.
right?
Alternate
Or
artists.
she
Yeah.
calls seniors who have a very big say in things other than music, which is also, I think,
Yeah.
amazing. So what do you feel
And
about
also calling artists who probably haven't been given their due.
yeah, yeah.
That's also important. We have a lot of those.
Mm. Why do you think that
So
ticketing concerts are so important?
because any art form, anything that you're showcasing to people will gain respect down the line only if you're paying to watch it.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, if suddenly one day movie theaters become free,
Mm.
it's going to change the whole scenario of it'll obviously change the music in the whole movie industry, won't it? In
Mm.
every possible way.
Mm.
And that's one reason why I feel that this field isn't flourishing the way it should, is because we don't have strict ticketing policies.
Right. Right.
See, abroad it's strict. Okay, there's the concert is always ticketed, which is why you have audiences entering the venue 15 minutes before, sitting quietly throughout, paying attention to the music,
Mm.
leaving quietly later.
Mm.
Now, because it's all free, you
Mm.
waltz in whenever you want. You go get on your phone, you do this, you do that.
Discipline is gone.
Discipline is gone because the art, when given for free, is taken for granted. It's as
Mm.
simple as that.
Mm. Mm.
So, because of that, Indian audiences have taken the Indian arts for granted, saying that it's free. Like, sure, I mean, artists must be great, doing a good job on stage. But because I haven't paid to see them,
Mm.
it means I'm the boss right now. I can do
Right.
whatever I want. That kind of
Right.
attitude
Exactly.
comes in.
And also, like, it also means that people don't have to turn up to the concert. They don't have to turn up
Exactly.
to the gig. That's also another thing.
Exactly.
Like, when you pay for something, it's that kind of mentality. You're like, I've paid for this. I should probably go
Yeah.
because I paid for it. If you
Yeah.
haven't paid for it, you're instantly like, oh, even if I'm free, I'm gonna be, oh, I'm too lazy to go today. I'm not gonna go, right?
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
you haven't paid what that concert is worth,
Yeah.
which I think is really, really sad.
And this happens, funnily, this happens only in the Indian classical music industry, right? I've
Mm.
been to so many pub gigs and cafes and stuff like that. Even those are ticketed. Those might
Mm.
be indirectly ticketed. There'll be a cover charge. You know,
Mm.
you buy a cover charge for $500, you'll get drinks and food or whatever. But
Right.
there's still a charge that you have to pay at the gate. There's an amount that you have to pay at the gate to get in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our, our field's the only one where I've seen this happen, that you just waltz in whenever you want, you leave whenever you want.
Mm. Mm.
It's
Let's talk now
crazy.
that we're talking about free gigs. Let's talk about AU, Artists United,
Mm-hmm.
because it's received a lot of positive feedback, but it's also
Right.
received a few negative.
Right. Right.
Like anything will receive something negative.
Right. Right.
And you've had people say like, why are you doing something? Probably not directly to you, but indirectly, people have said it.
No one says
People
anything
can't,
directly to me. That's
people,
that's the frustrating part. I don't know why.
people can't say anything directly to anyone, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
So why did you start AU? And how people are now criticizing it, or probably other things that are doing similar things to
Okay.
AU now, because it's free.
Yeah.
How do you
So
justify that?
I'll give you a brief history about how this came about.
Mm.
I think it was 15th March. The date was 15th March, and I was just thinking, like, I was going to a lot of posts on Facebook saying that tour's been cancelled. Like, I think Teja Brush had a concert on 16th in Pune,
Mm.
and he just messaged me saying that, you know what, my concert tomorrow has been cancelled. It's not happening anymore because of the situation. So my mom came in actually, and she was like, "Oh, this is happening. Why don't you start a page where you and your brother perform,
Mm.
and we'll get like all of my father's students to perform, so that even they'll feel like doing something, because classes wouldn't be happening."
Mm.
So she came up with that, and I thought, why not just make a page for everybody basically to perform?
Mm.
Like, people are surely going to get bored if they see my face on Facebook
Mm.
Live every day. So that's how it came about. So I put up a status on Facebook saying that, how about this? Because it hadn't happened yet.
Mm. Mm.
So I think within a day, I think Kishore Merchant shared my post, and Shripad Bhalera commented on it, and we suddenly made a team. And by 16th March, I made the page. I had no idea what to call it. And just out of the top of my head, I just called it Artists United,
Yeah.
published it.
Mm.
And the idea was to see, the basic idea was to obviously just spread positivity, because this was a tough time.
Mm.
At that point, I mean, every day, every couple of posts on Facebook would be my tour got cancelled, my concert tomorrow got cancelled,
Right.
my
Right.
concert
Yeah.
next week has gotten cancelled.
Mm.
Only that. That's it. So the basic idea was like so many concerts are getting cancelled. Audiences aren't going to get to see you live. So why don't us as artists get together, spread a little positivity, just perform for some time. And like when it started, with every artist that I spoke to, I told them you have the freedom that you need. You can perform 15 minutes, you can perform an hour. It's all up to you. The idea was just to create an atmosphere of good vibes, a little positivity. The idea was to do this till 31st March.
Right. Right.
It started on 16th March. I opened forms, and we were going to start performances from the 18th of March. It was supposed to be just 2 weeks, get it done by 31st March, 1st April. By about 20th or 22nd, we started getting a lot of forms and a huge response. Like we got up to 4,000-5,000 followers within the first few days
Right.
on the page. And sometime during that time, around 22nd or 23rd, it was announced that the Indian lockdown is going to be extended till 15th April. Like there's going to be a lockdown till 15th April. So we thought, let's do that. Let's extend, because we were getting loads and loads of forms for people who are willing to perform. So we did that. We extended it till 15th of April. And see, these were all voluntary, okay? 90% of them were voluntary. 10% of the artists were my personal friends that I contacted myself and said, this is what I'm thinking of. This is the vision. And these were people who understood exactly and got on board immediately. No questions asked. Nothing of that sort. Because see, AU is not an organization, right?
Right.
It's just a page where I thought I could get audiences and artists together. That's it. It wasn't an organization. So we did this till 15th April. By then we had more than 10,000 followers on the page. Like things were going viral on the page at that point. And so we decided that, okay, I mean, there's so many artists who are still willing to perform. Let's extend a bit more, because by then, again, the lockdown extended till 30th of April.
Right.
So we took a break for a few days, then we started like a season 2 kind of a thing. And again, we had loads of artists. Like right now, AU's not operating because we thought we have to start monetizing things to get it back into action. But still, I get like at least 20 messages every day on the page saying that they want to perform. Which also shows that there's such a lack of opportunity for these artists. The biggest takeaway that I've had from AU is I personally have come across artists that I would have never heard in my life.
Right.
I would have never come across these artists in my life.
Right.
Because there's no way, seeing how commercialized and how corporatized our fraternity is, there's no way they would have gotten a chance on the stage. At least for the next 5 years. Wouldn't have happened. So a lot of those artists came about. A lot of senior artists within the first week of AU, when they saw these people coming up, started posting things on Facebook, saying that, what is this Facebook Live? I could sense the insecurity that they had in them.
So you felt insecurity, like senior artists felt insecure because new artists were coming into light?
Most definitely. Because they realized that these are artists who are not going to budge about, who are not going to show their antics. Like these are basically people who really needed the stage and were super talented.
Yeah.
Lovely artists. I mean, you've heard some of them.
Yes.
And so they realized, because these are probably faces that even the seniors wouldn't have seen ever in their lives. They were taken aback. But I think even they understood. After a month or so, they were coming on the page and writing great comments saying, what a lovely initiative. And I don't know, probably looking for a spot to perform themselves. Could be.
So
but that started happening.
So then it comes back to lack of unity and insecurity, right? Because people are insecure that new talent is coming up.
It's basically a page called Artists United. artists, the word there is united, and you still had people saying that this is not a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's still people saying that a lot of artists were actually frustrated that they didn't come up with this.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
we've seen posts, we've seen conversations happening on Facebook saying that, yeah, this happened, that happened, we should have come up with this.
Mm. Mm.
That happened. But then once the season 2 ended, we had to do a 10-day thing of folk artists because we hadn't projected folk artists so far, and we had a lot of forms from folk artists.
Mm.
So we thought we'll just do that quickly and then give it a break,
Mm.
because AU kind of became an organization by then.
By then, right. Right.
And if you're an organization, you have to start paying artists. You have to
Correct.
start monetizing it. You have to start
Correct.
charging people for the concerts
For
that they're
watching,
seeing,
right.
for
Yeah.
watching. So that's it. I mean, a lot of posts on Facebook came about how we should not play free concerts.
And also some of them played and then started talking about how they shouldn't play.
Yes, yes. A lot of them complained first, said that we shouldn't, and then played. A lot of
And then
them played
played.
first and then complained. So again, the unity was completely lacking. On a
Mm.
page that's called Artists United, unity was still lacking. So anyway, we decided to give it a break because
Yeah.
artists have to start getting paid
Mm.
for performing.
Mm. Mm.
So yeah, once we have a model for that, it'll come back up. But yeah, the unity is completely lacking. That's very sad to see.
It is a very sad thing. I think unity is one of the biggest things that we need to work towards, because clearly have people have this perspective that I need to fight. We need to fight with each other as artists to get some kind of opportunity, and I don't think that's true. If there was, like, the main thing is that there aren't enough opportunities, and that's why I think there's such lack of unity.
Yeah.
Opportunities need to be created, platforms need to be created, hopefully through this lockdown.
I think there are platforms, but so many artists are being repeated on these platforms.
Mm.
That's the main problem that's happening. This repetition of artists continuously.
Mm.
Like as I spoke right at the beginning about walking away from the stage. Now, we have huge organizations in Pune, huge festivals happening in Pune, who would call the same 4, 5, I'm going to call them super senior musicians,
Mm.
because like they're in their 80s and 90s, who would still call these musicians year after year for the past 10, 15 years.
Mm.
And you can clearly see the artist struggling on stage. Like,
Mm.
you can see the hands shaking, the voice trembling, so many things happening, so many issues. Like, it feels like, as an organizer, I would feel like I'm totally taking advantage of this old man, basically, who's on stage right now,
Right.
who's croaking away through his performance, unfortunately, who used to be one of the best
Right.
musicians in their
In
prime.
their times they were, yeah.
In their times, they were, but the old have to give way for the new to come in.
Mm.
I mean, that's it. That's the basic. That's how life is.
Yeah, you have to. I think this whole concept of retirement doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in this,
Doesn't exist.
and it's difficult. It's difficult because you're doing something that you love, and it's
Yeah.
performance. You're
See,
performing.
as retirement,
Very
you don't
difficult to
retire
do.
as a musician, but retiring as a stage performer is different from retiring as a musician. You never cease to be a musician, right? You will always be a musician.
You'll always be a musician. Yeah.
Like I read somewhere, like I think there should be 4 phases to a musician's life. First one is learning, tutelage part. Okay. Second is assimilation of all that knowledge that you've been learning, experience, and all that. Third is the performing part, the performance part, where you're on stage showcasing your art, which is where most people get stuck. That's it.
Mm.
And the fourth stage is legacy.
Right.
I think as an artist, you should aim to create a legacy. It's very important. You have to leave something for the next generation to look up to look at, basically.
Definitely.
Because what happens when you're in the third phase for too long, you fall into a comfort zone, right? And as an artist, you fall into the trap of my biggest fears personally, and that is stagnancy. That word scares the shit out of me, man. Like,
Stagnancy. Yeah.
when I imagine myself becoming stagnant, that's it. I mean, I pick up my sarod, start practicing immediately, because that's the last thing I would want to be as an artist. Unfortunately, you see that happen so often. I've heard artists when they were 25, I heard them at 45. It's the same. It's so sad to see, because it could have been something so much more. I mean, I'm very passionate about this,
I mean,
it
the
matters
thing
a
is
lot to
that
me.
at the end of the day, the point is that you have to be self-aware of what you're doing.
Yeah.
If after a point, like as a dancer, if I know I can't move on stage anymore,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be going on stage anymore. There's so much more I can do as a dancer. I can teach, I can spread my knowledge, I can speak about my dance, I can speak about other issues. I don't need to get on stage continuously. There are so many dancers who need opportunities.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that I think, until and unless artists become aware of what they are capable of and when they should stop performing, even organizers won't be able to do anything. Because
Exactly.
even if an organizer tells me at the age of 75, if I can't dance, so like, come and perform, you have to perform, I have to have that sensibility to say no.
Exactly.
Why don't you keep someone else? An organizer is always going to do what is profitable for them.
Exactly.
Right?
But see, these organizers will throw big money, like, obscene amounts of money. They're going to throw 10-15 lakhs at an artist, who's clearly not in their prime, but because that artist is going to sell them tickets, and tickets don't even make up for an artist's costs. It's basically publicity and marketing and those things that they're going for at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah.
And they'll throw these obscene amounts of money at an artist who's probably going to get up on stage, struggle through the performance for half an hour, and go home not even richer, because that's probably what they've been getting paid for like 20 years now. So that's
there's
probably
no money. There's no system. I mean, we've spoken about this so much, but there's just no system, and that's why I refrain from calling it a fraternity.
Yeah, exactly.
Because,
there's no infrastructure,
or a fraternity or an industry. There's absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's nowhere you can go and talk to your problems about, right? There's no way you can go and be like, I don't know, I applied for this hasn't got. Most organizations don't have proper email addresses. If you email them with your like biodata or something or clips, and then you meet the organizer somewhere, you're like, I emailed, they'll be like, oh, you did? Oh, you did? Like, people face this. We're lucky because our family is into music, but most people who are not. It's a very difficult thing for them to suddenly get in touch with an organizer or get in touch with an artist and get gigs. That doesn't happen, right? There's no system. A simple thing is email, where you can email somebody your biodata and a photo of you and a link of you performing. People don't check it, and these are like some of the biggest organizations in India that don't have that system.
Yeah, I think Davina has made the right point. I mean, that's true. They get the money from sponsors because of the brand. Exactly.
And then what Davina said last
I
time
think because
about
of corporate sponsorship has done things to this community that's going to take like a few decades to get over.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that? Why do you think?
This is the basic. I mean, this comment by Davina, it summed it up, right? The sponsors, like, because I've worked with her so often and we've had a lot of conversations. She being she's a full-time organizer now. So she's told me about the conversations that she's had with sponsors. And the moment she would suggest a name like mine or Pratik's or a youngster, basically, sponsors are clueless, absolutely. And they're like, no, what are you talking about? No, wait a second.
They want
not what we want. Yeah. And again, we're left empty-handed then. What do we do?
Then it's a vicious cycle, because then the organizers are like, fine, they want bigger names, so then I have to put bigger names in my list to get sponsorship. It's just a vicious cycle of the same artists coming and performing. It's such a massive topic. We've spoken for almost an hour and a half.
Really?
Taking away your internet connection issues, but
sorry.
You really need to fix your internet, man. But that's that. I mean, thank you to everybody who's commented, and thank you,
Yeah.
Abhishek, for being here again. I find it weird to say thank you to people like you because we have this
It
conversation.
was a great privilege being here, and it's thanks to
Thank
the
you for being
gurus and my gods that I was
Oh
given this
God.
opportunity to be here on Cut the Crap.
Oh wow.
This is again a big problem. It's a huge problem when people talk like this.
It's a huge
What's wrong
problem.
with them?
Why are you talking like that?
Why are you
Why?
talking like that?
Like the fact that words are coming out of my mouth is because thank you so much,
Yeah. So
my gurus. I am
sab
saying
upar wale ke
hello
liye.
because of them. Yeah,
Because
it's
of them.
mad.
Sab upar wale. But
Now
yeah.
again, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry because I haven't been able to go through a lot of comments, but I'll go through them later on. I think we just kept talking so much that we didn't even look at the comments.
No, I mean, we didn't.
What have we been doing?
We didn't. We haven't looked at the comments.
We haven't looked
Yeah,
at the comments.
but no, it's
Very sorry about that.
very sorry about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
very sorry about that. But
We
you can
will.
go back and you can go
Yeah.
back and answer your
I
questions.
will.
Most things will be directed to you anyways.
And yeah, I'll
But
do that. I'll do that.
I have the reason why a lot of the things like we're saying we've already heard each other speak about, and we've spoken a lot about Cut the Crap just in general. So
Yeah.
it's probably why his episode was last, because I was like, there's no point of doing your episode in the middle because then we'd speak for everybody else. There's no point of getting like,
basically,
you know,
basically.
that kind of thing. But thank you for being on my show. Abhishek, thanks for coming. He's stuck again. You're getting stuck on my laptop. I don't know what's happening. But thank you everybody for watching. And thank you. This was the last episode of this season. The second season is a really short break. It's coming on the 25th. I'm going to be posting the poster that Abhishek has very nicely designed for me. But I'm going to put it on Facebook soon. I am thinking of speaking to senior musicians, getting their perspective, because I believe getting perspectives is important. You can't just speak to one side of a community. It's very important to speak to the other.
This poster designing thing has been a free gig, by the way.
Oh wow.
Certainly gonna put that in there.
We're not going to talk about this. Like when you're friends with people, you know, this is a common thing. When you're friends with people, you can take advantage of them.
Of course, what was I thinking?
So I've taken advantage of our friendship, and he has very nicely done the posters for me for free. And I don't have any sponsorships, so I can't pay you.
Yeah, sure. Let's just say that.
Just say that. But yeah, thank you for coming on my show. Thank you for everybody for watching all 12 episodes. For all 12 episodes, it's been great. I've learned a lot. I've spoken to so many people, learned so many different things. I'm coming back on the 25th with senior musicians. I will put up the poster. Please keep watching and speak, so that I don't know, man, people can hear what's happening.
Yeah, man.
Really,
speak.
Yeah, man,
please.
Speak, man. Yeah, please. We're tired of being civil now, so now like other stuff is going on. Okay,
that
so
was as civil as we could get for 90 minutes at a stretch.
For 90 minutes at a stretch, we haven't even made a stupid joke. So it's difficult. But thank you for being here. Thank you to everybody. Come back on the 25th. I think it's a Monday. Same time, 10 p.m. I'm just going to announce what it is. It's Pandit Shubhankar Banerjee is coming on my show. We're going to speak. We're going to talk. And I've got wonderful senior artists lined up. So keep your eyes on this space. And I will see you guys on the 25th. Thank you. And thank you, Abhishek. And I will see you later.
Cool.
Bye. Wow.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.